All right, and welcome to Journey with the Jays, now heard on Real 1100 AM in Atlanta. This week, myself, JB, Spenser, and Jon are joined by former Stanley Cup champion Brent Sopel. Brent, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. How you doing?
Doing all right. So let's dive right into the hockey stuff, Brent. One of the biggest things I want to talk about, because this was a wacky year we had, no fans in the playoffs, and especially you having gone through the playoffs. You were a Stanley Cup champion with the Blackhawks in 2010, as I mentioned. I want to hear from your perspective. What effect do fans have in the playoffs? What is that? What is the atmosphere like, especially with the fans in the playoffs? What's the difference?
Well, they make the playoffs. Walking on the ice and you can't hear yourself talk out loud. When you're in the playoffs in 2010, I couldn't talk to the guy next to me when we walk on the ice or after a goal. They're the ones that make the game the way it is. The electricity in the building is from them. And this year's been, obviously 2020 is going to go down in something we're not sure. Not having fans, in all sports, it sucks because we love playing. We're there to entertain. And when we're looking in the stands and seeing nothing, it sucks. It's not fun. But it's a job, and the guys did a great job. The Tampa Bay Lightning, taking home the Stanley Cup, but it's definitely not what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So this is a question I want to ask you, and I want everybody else to I want to hear their thoughts. Do you think it was harder or easier without the fans for the entire playoffs? Because I know for me, I can see both sides. So I'm curious to hear what you're thinking and what the rest of you guys are thinking about that as well. So I'll start with you, Brent, again as the former player. But do you think having fans, rather the lack of fans, hurt or helped or both?
Oh, it hurt, no question. Again, when you walk out on the ice and there's nothing, you can hear a pin drop, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. When it's electric and you see people going nuts, and no matter if that's after a goal or a hit or whatever. That's where you get your energy from. That's why your home field advantage, home ice advantage was always there for those reasons. And nobody had it. It was on the road and no fans there. The pin drops, so you had to find a way to create your own energy as a player and as a team. And again, that's not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to have the fans creating it for you. But 2020 is what it is.
What do you guys think, JB?
I definitely could see the difference without the fans. It just, you have the fake noise that they pump into all these games. It just doesn't feel right to see all these great stadiums and arenas empty. And I would imagine, like Brent said, as a player, you're there, you're feeding off everyone's energy, and you want to put on a show. Basically, you're a performer, and you're doing what you love. So you want to make that play, so you hear the fans go wild. So without hearing that, it's almost like a practice, I would think.
So my thing is then what I'm curious about, because obviously that would hurt a home team. But if you would have been what is, I'll put it in quotes, the away team, because obviously there were no real away teams this year. But if you were the away team, does the lack of fans help at that point?
No, the only difference was this year was last change. If you're a home team, you can change last. So that was the only difference. Everybody's playing in the same rink, same non-fans. So it didn't matter if you're home or away. The only thing was your jerseys were a different color, and then you got last change if you're home. That was the only difference.
Any thoughts for the rest of you guys before I go on to the next questions or anything? Because I have thoughts, but I want to hear what you guys think first.
I think that you saw it a lot also in the NBA. A lot of the best teams in the league that are used to having home court advantage, they struggled out of the gate. I mean, the Bucks and the Lakers won that game one. And I'm sorry, they lost that game one in the playoffs. So I think that I saw it a lot in basketball. Definitely saw it in hockey, and I think it took everyone a little bit of getting used to playing without fans.
Well, I don't think that's got to do with the fans. It's they took 2 months off in the middle of the season to sit and do nothing.
That's a good point.
As athletes, we don't sit and do nothing. We work out, we're always going, but guys are locked down, and being older like myself, it takes me longer to get going than a 22-year-old kid. So I think that was the biggest issue for all the sports.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, I remember when every sport shut down and they started when things started coming back, where they said, okay, we're going to try and bring these back, my immediate thought was, how are teams going to react? And it was really interesting to see. I do find it a little bit ironic that, especially in hockey, arguably the best team in all of hockey still managed to win. And I don't think that was a coincidence. I think that's just them being arguably, if not definitely, the best team in the league. I don't think that was, some sort of coincidence. But I still think it was really interesting because I feel like if you go back and watch the Lightning, they were slower at the beginning. And obviously you saw them really pick up by the end, and obviously they would win. It was definitely interesting. And, going back to what I was saying about the fans or their lack of, my only thought was, if you were the home team or the away team, and I'm putting quotes around all this because, of course, this year there wasn't. I feel like if you were supposed to be the away team, now obviously this year it doesn't matter, but in a regular year, I would think that having opposing fans might hurt. So I almost feel like maybe an away team may have gotten almost like a help by not having the opposing fans, but also, like you said, being hurt at the same time because they don't have their home team. Their fans when they would be at home. But yeah, it was really fun to watch. So the next thing I really want to talk about, keeping up with, we just had the season end recently. I really want to hear from your experiences, Brent, and because I can only imagine, and I know the rest of the guys can only possibly imagine what it's like. What is the atmosphere of being not only in the Stanley Cup, but winning the Stanley Cup? That experience in the locker room with your teammates, on the ice, off the ice, the celebrations, everything. I want to hear about that because I watch it and I get chills just watching. I can't imagine being a part of that.
Well, it's, for all of us, it's a childhood dream to win it. So to accomplish a childhood dream is amazing. And when you're with these guys for 9 months, every single day in, day out, it's usually the team who has the best bond, best relationships through each individual that makes it to the end. Hockey is a different sport, meaning, you win the Stanley Cup with your third and fourth lines and your fifth and sixth D-men. Every other sport, that's not how it works. There's always a superstar that can overtake a game, not in the NHL. So you've got to have that camaraderie. You've got to have an amazing dressing room where everybody cares for each other and sacrifices for each other. To make it win 16 games. There's, NFL, you play 16 games, all season. We'll play that in a month, and we got to win that many games to win the championship. So you've got to sacrifice your body, mentally, physically, for that guy next to you.
Yeah, like I said, I get chills watching it. I can only imagine what it was like. And look, I have the utmost admiration for you and every hockey player out there, honestly, just because I always say hockey's got to be the hardest championship to win, just because you put your body on the line so often. Compared to football, you get a week off, and I understand it's intense, but you get a week off in between. Hockey's not that way. You wear yourself out in 5 overtime games, and then you got to go play the next night. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. It's not going to change. So that's it for me. I think, Spenser, you had some questions possibly for Brent, so I'll throw it to you for whatever you got.
Yeah, I want to stay on that Stanley Cup topic. I wanted to know, what's the craziest thing that you can share with us on radio that you or a teammate has done with the Stanley Cup trophy?
Oh, there's thousands of stories, and we party like rock stars. Here in Chicago, it took 49 years to get it back. So, everywhere we went downtown, there was parade, all us people everywhere. We all had a great time. No matter when that cup was, whereas we had an amazing time, and it'll be memories that every one of us will never forget.
There you go. And you were in the NHL for a good amount of years. I wanted to know personally, what did you think that your signature skill was on the ice?
Well, when I came in the league, it was different. When I finished the league, I had to adapt to the game. And at the end of my career, I was a defenseman and blocking shots. And I came in the league as an offensive guy, so I had to adapt to stay in the league as long as I did, and stay in the league long enough to win a Stanley Cup. And it took me taking slap shots to the body and breaking bones and being injured every day to finally hoist that Stanley Cup, and it's all worth it.
Now, how difficult is it to prepare for like a back-to-back game when you're out there for 20 minutes?
It's, again, you go back to, I think when we won in 2010, I think we played on 110 games. NFL careers, guys don't play that in a whole career. So, it's mentally, it's a huge mental game. You've got to be ready to go in back-to-backs and, flying to different cities and playing injured. It's a grind. Your body takes an absolute beating when you play in the league as long as I did. It's a mental grind. I had to get through pain every single game to get to the end, but that's what it took.
Now, right now you have the Brent Sopel Foundation. Can you share with our listeners a little bit about it?
Yeah, I started the Brent Sopel Foundation about 3 years ago. I found out 10 years ago I'm dyslexic. So the foundation is all about raising awareness, educating, being there to support students with dyslexia, parents, teachers, anybody who needs that support. It's something that's not talked a lot about, but dyslexia is 1 in 5. And it's hereditary. So, anything the foundation can do right now. And I released a documentary a couple months ago called Here to Change the World, and just trying to educate the world what dyslexia is, what goes on, how our brains work, because, our brains are wired differently than you guys.
That's very cool. What made you start the foundation?
Well, I'm finding out, 33 years into my life, that I, finally had something there. I was reading at a grade 4 level in high school. And after leaving the game of hockey that I did for 40 years, the real world wasn't nice, and especially when you had learning disorders and no education or work experience. So, I want to be there to support anybody. My main goal is not to make sure no kid feels the way I do every day.
That's awesome. We definitely appreciate you taking the time to come on. I know I'm going to interview you tomorrow on the program to find out more about the foundation and more about your career. But thanks so much for taking the time to come on Journey with the Jays tonight.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Brent.
Have a good night, Brent.
All right, guys. Take care.
All right. So now that we have finished up hockey, I think, Spenser, you got quite a bit going on in the NFL for us. So if you want to take over, what do we got going on in the NFL this week?
Thank you, Jake. I would like to start with the Thursday night football game tonight. It's the Atlanta Falcons, and they're playing at Carolina against the Panthers. The Panthers are a 2.5-point favorite. But before we get into the game tonight, can the four of us just acknowledge how brutal the end of that Falcons game was last week? I mean, Todd Gurley accidentally scoring a touchdown lost the Falcons the game. John, how crazy was that ending?
Well, I guess I will kind of bring you guys back to a little bit of history for you Giant fans. If you remember, Ahmad Bradshaw
knew that was
did
coming.
the same thing, but I believe he tried to stop himself and then he scored. Correct?
Yes.
He
tried to stop
turned
himself
around,
and fell in.
tried to sit, and fell on his butt, and then fell on his back into the end zone.
Yep.
But
that's
they
exactly
did win
what I
that
thought.
game, John.
And they
did
won
win
the
the
Super
Super
Bowl.
Bowl.
Yes, thankfully, because neither of us had. But yeah, that's what that reminded me of, and that's brutal. That's not on Todd Gurley. That's just, that's tough luck. And kudos to the Lions for going to 3-3. And I don't know if I want to break the little bit of news that they had, but Everson Griffin got traded for a 6th-round pick. Guess I'll just say it, to the Lions. And the Lions 3-3. I'm not going to go off topic too much, but 3-3 could be 4-2. Should have beat Chicago. Maybe they're a better team than we give them credit for, because 3-3, maybe 4-2 with just getting Everson Griffin. Kudos to the Lions for putting this together, Patricia and whatever that staff is.
Yeah, it was just a painful loss because you think, oh, we scored the touchdown, now we're going to win. Usually you celebrate when you see the touchdown, and it's so strange to be like, well, he scored the touchdown, which was the wrong thing to do, actually. It hurts because you know what? It's become second nature for a guy like Todd Gurley to just go into the end zone and score that he almost probably doesn't think about it as much. And then when he realizes, oh my God, I'm about to score and I'm not supposed to, it's almost too late. Like you said with Ahmad Bradshaw, same thing. Your instinct is to go and score because that's your job. And what did you do? Well, you weren't supposed to score, which is so strange to be saying. It hurts. And I don't want to put that on Todd Gurley, though, or the offense, because I really want to put that on the defense because, you know what? They put you in a lead. you should go out and try and play some defense and just stop the Lions. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, the Lions are bad, because they're not. Matthew Stafford's a decent quarterback, and I don't feel as though he's ever really gotten the respect he deserves. He's just on a really poor team, and that does not reflect on him. That's just the team around him. But I put this on the defense just because, yes, the offense shouldn't have scored. I understand that. But with so little time in the game, it shouldn't have been, they absolutely just have to not score here and then wait for the field goal. It should have been, okay, yeah, they messed up, but our defense has our back. And that's what stands out to me, that the defense doesn't have their back in that instance and can't make the stop when you really need them to, especially at that moment. Like that is the key to the game at that point. It's just stop the Lions, and they didn't. They got killed.
Yeah, but looking at that game, the defense stepped up big throughout the game. They're a lot different than they were a few weeks ago.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and say it's all the defense's fault. And, Gurley, he tried his hardest not to go in its instinct, like you said, but they're a different team than they were, 4 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. They should have won this game. They were a lot better. They're going to win in Carolina tonight on the road. They're going to take care of business. This is a much better Atlanta team. They're starting to play to their strengths. They're starting to do the right things. The defense looks night and day different than how it looked week 2, week 3, even week 4. Yes, they had a bad lapse where they gave up the last touchdown. They also got hurt with a couple of really bad calls when they were on D. And that, the referees were atrocious all weekend in the NFL from what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Spenser, what do you think about that?
I thought that Jake makes a really interesting point, not blaming Gurley, but putting the blame on the defense. I 100% agree with you. I actually hadn't looked at it like that. I said it before the game, and I believe it after the game. The Lions' offense is underrated. Galladay is an elite receiver. Swift is turning into a really good running back, and he's starting to get carries and catches, and he looks really good. And let's not act like Matt Stafford isn't a slouch. Now, a few weeks ago, we were calling for Matt Patricia's job. Guys won a few games. The Lions are in the thick of things. So it's just funny. They've turned it around. And JB, I do agree with you. The Falcons look like they've been playing more inspired football. And you brought up the game tonight. Tonight. I think it's going to be a battle. The Panthers have looked pretty good lately. They're coming off a loss to the Saints, but this is a divisional game. I like what Bridgewater's done. I think it's a pick 'em for me. I probably lean closer to Carolina than I do Atlanta, but 2.5 points. The Panthers are favored. Yeah, I'll say the Panthers cover. That's my pick, but it's going to be a close game.
I have some interesting stats for this one. Raheem Morris in his career is 2-4 against the Panthers. Obviously, Matt Rule's 1-0 against the Falcons. He only played him once. The Falcons have won 5 of the last 6 in the series. They lost earlier this year, but they won 5 of the last 6. McCaffrey probably doesn't play this game. I believe they're going to hold him out of this game as of Tuesday night. That's what it's looking like. Falcons lead the all-time series 32-19. And the last time they played in Carolina last year, the Falcons won 29-3, and that was with Christian McCaffrey. So, to me, I'm going Falcons in this one because it looks like the Falcons, they won 5 of the last 6 in this series. They lost earlier this year, but other than that, they've been dominating this series. 32-19 all time in this series.
I just want to go back and say one thing about what I said, about the defense. I don't want to put the defense completely on blast and blame them for the whole thing because JB brought up a great point. Yes, the defense played well, or at least better throughout the whole game. I just do want to say, though, in that instance, it felt like the defense really needed to step up and make the stop. Not that they didn't play well. I'm just saying in that one instance, they hadn't stepped up. Now, moving on to this game against the Panthers, I'm going with the Falcons. The Falcons have been playing better ball. It's been refreshing, actually, to see almost a change of pace. It feels like really a different team out there since the coaching change. And more importantly, what I want to talk about is the fact that as of Tuesday night, Christian McCaffrey will not be playing, like Jon just mentioned. And that is going to be the key for me to why the Falcons managed to win as opposed to lose. If McCaffrey's in there, I give the Panthers that game every single time, only because McCaffrey is such a game changer. He is.
Remember 29-3 last year, Falcons, with McCaffrey in that game in Carolina. Just remember that.
But different quarterback.
Different quarter, right. So I'm going to say, with Teddy Bridgewater at the helm, they're a very different team than what they are last year with McCaffrey. They would be a much better team in terms of this game. Like, they'd have better chances. Bridgewater's a better quarterback than what they had last year. But more importantly, like I said, McCaffrey is a game changer. And he can turn a game on its head like a flip of a coin. He could break out for a run for 80 yards any play, and you just never know. He's that kind of guy. So because they lack McCaffrey in this game, I like the Falcons. They've played better ball. They've looked offensively. They've continued to look solid. Like I said, the defense has improved. They haven't been perfect, but considering the coaching change, it can be hard on a team sometimes. I've been impressed. I am going to stick with the Falcons. And Spenser, you said the spread was 2.5 in favor of Carolina. I think I'm against you on this one, Spenser. I think the Falcons will be fine. They'll cover. I'm not worried about that. Like I said, I'm taking the Falcons in this game, and I take them to cover. JB, what do you think?
I have to say, I think the Bears right now are saying, why don't we go after Teddy Bridgewater rather than Nick Foles for the trade that they made? Teddy's been playing great ball, played a great game against the Saints this week. He's doing all sorts of good things. He's playing like he did when he was with the Saints last year, and he filled in for Breeze. But when it's all said and done, Matt Ryan and the Falcons offense is better than the Carolina offense. And their defense is starting to play better. They're starting to pick up the pieces. I think that they're going to win this game. There's no McCaffrey, so, Carolina's best weapon is gone. Carolina's receivers are decent, but they're not great. The receiver core for the Falcons is a billion times better. I like the Falcons outright this game.
Keep in mind, K'Wan Short is out for the season. The best interior lineman for the Panthers. Todd Gurley can run all over that defense. Thursday night, I believe Todd Gurley is going to be the X factor in this game with K'Wan Short out for season. He really makes a difference. He was the reason the Panthers were anchoring that run defense earlier in the season. And with him being gone, that's really going to open up things for Brian Hill and Todd Gurley in this game, I believe.
Final thing I want to say on this game tonight is that Matt Rule has done a great job with this Panthers team 7 games into the season. I didn't think that they'd be 3-4, which isn't a terrible record given the talent on that roster. Should have been the New York Giants head coach, Matt Rule. Should have been.
Don't disagree with that. Nothing more to say, just don't disagree with that.
All right, I want to stay in the NFC South, and I want to talk about the debate that everybody had prior to the season between the quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady, and the coach of the New England Patriots, Bill Belichick. Who needs who more? And after 7 weeks, it's clear, and it's a short sample size, but it's clear that Tom Brady and the 5-2 Bucs have looked significantly better than the 2-4 New England Patriots. So, JB, I'll start with you. How surprising have you been to see Brady flourish outside of New England while Belichick has struggled in New England?
I had a feeling Brady was going to do pretty well because he had some really great talent with him in Tampa. Evans, and they brought Gronk back, Godwin before he got hurt. They had really good receivers, something he didn't have in New England. I mean, he did have little pieces here and there, that got the job done, but nothing like he has now. Brady's a good quarterback. Now you took away Belichick's best offensive player, and, his defense isn't playing as good as they have for the past. So, he's down on both sides of the ball. And if you remember, before Brady, Belichick really wasn't that good of a coach. When he was at Cleveland, he didn't last very long. So maybe all along it was Brady. What do you think, John?
I don't think that's fair to dismiss Bill Belichick's entire career just because of, half a season essentially. Like, come on, what are we doing here? The guy's won 6 Super Bowls, and we're going to discredit him because of half of a season without, one of the greatest, if not the greatest. You can debate that all you want. Quarterbacks of all time, you take him away. Okay, yeah, like, let's take away, Peyton Manning. Let's take away John Elway. Like, what are we doing here? You can't discredit a coach just because half of a season. Like, that doesn't make any sense to do that to a guy. Plus, look at the team he has. There's nobody on that offense. The defense has Stephon Gilmore. Hold on. They have a ton of guys out with the COVID thing that didn't play before the season. They chose not to play. Offensive linemen, big players on their team that really make a difference. So let's just reserve judgment. It's half of the season. Let's wait. Let's give him a couple years. Let's give him 3 years, because it's not fair to that small sample size go on half of a season. Come on, we're better than that. He's 6 Super Bowls. Come on.
What did he do? What did he do before Brady? And what did he do after
Post Brady?
Right,
I mean, maybe he created
the Brady time. So if he's such a good coach, where are the offensive players to build around Brady?
I guess they got to rebuild. It's not his fault that, the team fell apart and they were built around Brady and Brady just kind of walked out the door. They would have had Jimmy Garoppolo, if you remember, but Brady wanted to stay, so they had to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo, and that was on Brady. So they would have Jimmy Garoppolo right now if it wasn't for Brady. Just remember that.
I'm going to play both sides of this. I'm going to start with the Brady side. Brady happens to be in an exceptionally strong situation. What I mean by that, fantastic head coach right now, Bruce Arians. There's no doubt that no one's going to sit here and say Bruce Arians is not one of the best coaches of all time. I'm not saying that he's necessarily top 5, but he's definitely top 20 for sure. He's a great coach, and there's no doubt about that. He's never been the tippy top because he hasn't reached levels of Belichick, but he's a great coach, no doubt. Brady also has incredible weapons. So again, to Brady's point, just to talk about him, he's got a lot around him. He's got the most, arguably, he's ever had, meaning a great coach to combine with elite receivers, and he's pulling in more, especially because he's getting AB. Now, to talk about the Belichick side, because, John, while you might be happy what I just said, you're not going to love what I'm about to say either. Belichick deserves more credit than he's getting, and here's why. Belichick is not working with a lot. He's working with Cam Newton, who hasn't played in a while. He was hurt. He's getting back on the field. He's trying to really adjust to a new offense now. There's a lot to it. So completely say, oh, Belichick was all Brady. No. Not only does he only have a Cam Newton who's just getting out there for the first time,
and we don't know if Cam Newton
so long off.
We don't know if Cam Newton's still feeling the effects of COVID. We have no idea of that.
More importantly, Newton still has nobody around him. He had the exact same problems Brady used to have, which is there's nobody around him. He's got an aging Julian Edelman. His running backs have not been impressive by any standards. The running back by committee is disgusting. It's stupid. He's got N'Keal Harry as his other receiver. Look at the other receivers. There's nobody. The defense is the bright spot, and I put quotes around that because I guess you want to call it the bright spot, but the team hasn't been wonderful. But for me to really put it all on, to say that, all of Belichick's success is because of Brady, I don't want to say that either, because look what Belichick is working with. It's a little bit of a give and take. I'm not surprised that Brady's playing well. I could have called that. If you give any quarterback, you give Daniel Jones what Brady has right now, yeah, he'd look great. Anybody would look great. I'd look great out there if I had that much going on with me. It's not hard. Good coaching, great players around you, it's going to happen. And for Belichick to not be looking incredible is not a surprise. It's the first time he's had no Tom Brady, and he still doesn't have a lot to work with. I'm not going to sit here and jump on the bandwagon and kill him. But at the same time, I will say this, to play the other side now really quickly. If he's such a great coach, why isn't he coaching his team to the level he had Brady at?
But not only that, isn't he also making the player personnel moves and bringing the people in?
Yeah,
so
he's essentially the general manager.
That's basically the problem. He knew the problems were there, and he wasn't giving Brady the pieces. He hasn't given Cam the pieces. So, if you want to have the title of coach and basically de facto GM, you got to bring the pieces in so you can go ahead and build a winner. He hasn't done that.
I'd also like to say, the Buccaneers' offensive weapons aren't that much different than they were last year with Jameis. Jameis isn't a terrible quarterback. He just couldn't make it work there. So that's the first thing I want to say. Jake, you said anybody can succeed there. Clearly, Jameis couldn't succeed. He lost a lot of games there.
But he also played well. He did throw 30 touchdowns. Just to be fair.
Yes,
just to be fair.
And 5,000 yards.
Sure, but they did not win football games. They were not a winning football team with Jameis.
That's not wrong,
all on him, but
I'd have to look back at the defense, but I'm not going to sit here and put it all on Jameis because Jameis did perform well. Granted, he did have also 30 interceptions, and that's partially on him.
The other thing I want to say in sports, we're obsessed with the next man up concept, right? When someone's injured, the next man up is supposed to step up and take their place. And my thought process is with the best coach in the league, that next man up concept should be not only emphasized, but it should be effective. And JB, you pointed it out. Clearly, the Patriots have not done a great job in the draft or in the offseason of getting the right talent in there. That's on Bill. And then also just the coaching from a preparation standpoint, the last 2 weeks, the Patriots have looked awful. And I understand that Cam might have had these lingering effects from having the COVID, as John puts it. But for me, Belichick, great coaches are supposed to overcome hurdles like that. So I don't want to just say, the Pats aren't healthy. They made some bad decisions. They don't have their guys. No, you don't get an excuse when you're Belichick. And I think we would be sitting here completely have a different tune if the Patriots were 4-2 as opposed to 2-4. And I some of it is on the injuries. Some of it is on Cam getting COVID, but I got to put a lot of it on Bill Belichick, guys.
I'm just saying, let's take away Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Le'Veon Bell. Let's take all of them away and see how Andy Reid does. That's kind of what Bill Belichick's working with, where he really doesn't have
Hold on. Time out. It's one thing to take away Patrick Mahomes, but to take Mahomes, Hill, Helaire, Kelce, that's not what Belichick lost.
That's what's happening is he's losing his entire offense.
No. Belichick lost one guy. He lost his quarterback.
I got that argument. Andy Reid made the playoffs like every year.
I'm just saying, you take away great players from a team, of course. Yeah, of course a team's going to struggle. That's why I said, give him a few years to, now that Brady is gone, because Brady kind of left in the middle of the night, and then Belichick and the Patriots kind of had
he's middle of the night in the contract.
Every single person saw this coming, including myself.
But I'm just saying, that catches a team by surprise. They were built around Tom Brady. Now they have to rebuild, and then the COVID stuff. Give them a couple years and let's see how they do. Trades in the offseason, free agency, draft. I'm not a Patriots fan. I'm just saying, give it time because it's not fair to just go off of half of the season.
Yep. Look at Cleveland. They're still doing well since they had him there. They haven't rebuilt from that time.
Here's what I want to leave with, because, John, I understand I made a little bit of an argument for Belichick, but I don't ultimately agree with you. I ultimately side with Brady on this, absolutely. Brady is going out there and proving that he's a good quarterback no matter what, because he proved it with great players and with poor players. He's done it both ways. Belichick is not getting anything done.
Great without Bill Belichick. He just got the greatest offense you can ever assemble. The first super team you've ever seen in football.
No, 2007.
That's a super offense.
Better.
We've never seen an offense built like that.
The greatest show on turf.
Greatest show on turf. Patriots in 07, 08 when they had Randy Moss.
You got Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette. Let's not forget Leonard Fournette. Come on.
Gronk, who's old, and he's not what he used to be. LaShawn McCoy, who's also old, not what he used to be. You have AB, who's going to come in, who's, guess what? Older and not what he used to be, probably.
We haven't seen him yet. We can't say that.
I said probably. You have a banged-up Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, specifically Godwin. I want to give credit to Brady because
then the defense is fantastic. It's a top 5 defense as well with Ndamukong Suh.
But I'm not complimenting the defense. I'm complimenting the offense because Brady's doing what he does. And Belichick is not doing what he's supposed to do. When you're one of the greatest of all time, right? You're supposed to constantly be the greatest. A great example, Michael Jordan. When he came back and played for the Wizards, he wasn't what he used to be. That's why people stopped saying, oh, he's the greatest at the moment, because he wasn't at the moment. Right now, people are still saying Brady's in the MVP conversation, especially after what he just did this week. People are not saying, "Oh, Belichick is up for Coach of the Year," because guess what? He hasn't done diddly squat.
Same guy that lost to the
him.
Bears. Same guy that lost to the Bears that just looked inept on Monday Night Football and forgot what down it was.
I want to put a pin in this argument because it's excellent. And the one thing I'll say is it's a short-term reaction, right? It's a 7-week sample. We have a whole rest of the year plus the next year. So right now, John, I think everyone can agree after 7 weeks, Brady is winning the who is more valuable, but it is close and Belichick could kind of make a comeback as these weeks go on. I want to move on to an interesting subject that I was thinking of, and I haven't heard about this on any sports talk radio. But in 2015, if you told me that the Pittsburgh Steelers would be undefeated in 2020 through 7 weeks without Le'Veon Bell and without Antonio Brown, I would ask you, what kind of drugs are you taking? And lo and behold, the Pittsburgh Steelers are undefeated. Their running back is James Conner, who started as Le'Veon Bell's backup. Their best receiver isn't even Juju Smith-Schuster. Their number one has been Deontay Johnson, and Claypool has been incredible as well. So, I mean, Jake, let's start with you. How surprised are you by just how amazing the Steelers have been offensively? And do you think that they will win the AFC North at the end of the year?
Well, for me, it comes down to two things. The reason they're playing well is that defense. And I'm not taking it away from the offense, but I do want to point out that defense has been stellar. And I want to give plenty of credit to them. Now, with that said, I want to give a lot of credit also to Ben Roethlisberger, because at age 38, coming back from injury, he's looked as great as ever. He's looked really, really spot on for what we'd hope to see from Ben Roethlisberger. He's not been just a game manager, which has been really nice to see. And that's what I was almost afraid of, was it was almost going to be kind of like a Peyton Manning situation where tail end of his career, now he's going to start to go from, really great quarterback that was constantly up there as one of the better quarterbacks, if not the best in his, in each year, to going from that to now to a game manager that is bottom of the league, not doing much. Instead, we're seeing vintage Ben Roethlisberger. And for me, it's the coaching, the defense, and Roethlisberger. And Mike Tomlin's been a great coach for a long time, and I have a lot of respect for him. And kudos to him for what he's done. Coaching basically no-name players on his receiving corps besides Juju, of course. And what I mean by that with Claypool and Johnson, who are, if you told me who they were before the beginning of the season, I would have said, "Who the heck are these guys? And what are you talking about? They're not going to do anything." I would have thought you're crazy. So that's great coaching on him. And I also think that, again, reflects on Roethlisberger, that he's got the veteran leadership. And I think he's taking that leadership along with the great coaching and basically saying, okay, guys, I'm going to help you be better. And that's what great leaders do. They make the players around them better. They help elevate the talent around them. And so is it impressive? Oh, yeah, absolutely. But do I think they're going to win the AFC North? No. Ultimately, I do still think Lamar Jackson and the Ravens will win. I feel like it's going to be really close, and it's going to come down to probably this week's matchup as a tiebreaker, or at least it's going to be possibly a tiebreaker this week. So really, this week is going to, for me, ultimately decide whoever wins this game. I'm going to get the feeling is going to end up winning the division. But right now, I lean towards Lamar, but it is, razor thin that I'm picking them over the Steelers at the moment.
Real quick, you bring up their defense, Jake. I just wanted to shout out TJ Watt and Bud Dupree are animals on that defensive line. Okay,
Yes,
just wanted to give them the credit they deserve because they're monsters.
Listen, the Steelers are a force. Are they going to win the division? It's Baltimore's division to win, but Tomlin just does what he needs to do. He's a coach. It doesn't matter who's in there. He gets them ready to play. It doesn't matter defense, offense. Both sides of the ball are coached well. He gets his team ready to play. He's a gamer. Last year, he had a guy named Duck playing quarterback. They made the playoffs. Listen, the guy can coach. Now you give him some talent. Ben's back. You get Claypool, who's a rookie. Juju, who's doing well. I'm sorry. Tomlin, to me, is right now the best coach in football with whatever guys he's there. And it's shocking to see that they lost two great talents in Bell and Brown. I mean, Bell really, ruined his career by going to the Jets. That was, I don't know what anybody would think to sign with the Jets, but Tomlin, I think, is the key to the whole success. The defense this year is definitely the better side of the ball, but their offense, when they need points, they can score in a hurry if, doing a bunch of different things, throwing, running. Connor, he's not Bell, but he can run the ball. And that line isn't bad either. So, I mean, I just like the team, but I still think it's the Ravens division.
Fool's gold. They're fool's gold. That offense is fool's gold. I'm telling you right now, fool's gold. They're playing well against bad teams.
Is it fool's gold?
But when we get into the cold weather, do you trust James Conner to carry the load in playoff football? Do you trust him in December, the guy that's always injured? Do you trust him? I don't. Do you trust?
He's played in cold weather.
But he has to be the guy. Do you trust a rookie in Chase Claypool? Do you trust a young guy in Deontay Johnson in the cold weather? Do you trust Juju, who doesn't look like the number one since AB left? I have a feeling that when the cold weather comes, this offense is going to regress a little bit. The defense is fantastic. But with Ben's arm, he's older, 38. I have a feeling this offense is going to regress when the weather gets colder, when things really start to happen in football, because that's when real football is played, when it gets in November and December and it gets cold, not October and September. I'm just saying, fool's gold on that offense. I'm calling it right now. When we revisit this conversation in the middle of December and that offense is regressing, I'm going to say I told you so right now, because I don't trust that run game at all. I don't trust James Conner not to get hurt, not to fumble the ball. I don't trust him at all. I don't.
The Steelers are undefeated right now. They're not going to go 16-0. They're going to come back down to earth a little bit. Roethlisberger is going to have some bad games. I think that offense is not going to be great every single week. I just think it's impressive what they've done this season, because I don't think that anyone saw them being this successful through 7 weeks. So that I want to give them credit where credit is due. But John, I think you're absolutely right. I think they're obviously going to come back down to earth. There's no way they should be the last unbeaten team out there, not with the close games that they've been in.
They barely beat the Broncos at home. Broncos are terrible. They barely beat the terrible Eagles at home. They should have lost that game. Those are 2 home games against 2 terrible teams that they easily could have lost. So let's not pretend that 6-0 is a pretty record. You lose to the Broncos and you lose to the Eagles right there, you're 4-2, and they could have lost them games. And I'm looking at it right now. Mike Tomlin is 12-14 against the Ravens in his career. That's a losing record. And the Ravens have won 3 of the past 4 games in this series. So let's not pretend that this is the end-all be-all game that's going to decide the division, because they play another game later in the season, these two. Probably going to split, but the Ravens are the better team. Just saying, guys, I'm going to have this debate on our little fantasy and flavor show Thursday night, because I know I'm going to be on there for it, because it's a big game. Oh, I can't wait to talk about this more. Oh, man. But the Ravens are winning this, and the Steelers are a little bit of fool's gold on offense. And Marlon Humphrey will shut down Chase Claypool or Deontay Johnson or whichever one. I'm just saying.
Question. When you look at the win column and the loss column, is there close win, big loss? No, it's win and loss. How many losses do the Steelers have?
They have zero, but I'm just saying.
0.
Look at the Bears.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter how many points you win by.
All right, let's look at the Chicago Bears. 5-2, correct? You tell me about the Chicago Bears. Go on. Tell me about the Chicago Bears. Only have 2 losses, so they must be one of the best teams in football, correct?
That has nothing to do. We're talking about the Steelers right now. We're talking about the Steelers, though.
Saying.
We're talking about one of the best coaches in the NFL, Mike Tomlin. We're not talking about.
I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying he's 12-14 against the Ravens. So let's not pretend he's going to roll into Baltimore and win this game.
Right. I already said the Ravens. It's the Ravens division, but you're knocking the Steelers when right now they're playing great football. And when it comes down to it, they're going to be in every game because of their coach. Their coach gets them ready to play. You want to talk about a good coach? It doesn't matter who their quarterback is. Take Roethlisberger away. They proved he could win without him. He's done it a few years.
They went 8-8.
Roethlisberger's been hurt.
They went 8-8. That's not
good enough.
Not good enough for the playoffs.
Considering you had a 3rd-string quarterback in at the time, that shows everything about about the coach, and I'm with JB still. If your coach can get a third string quarterback going and inevitably get a team to 8 wins, that's a lot better than just about every other team.
Because we're not even talking
bad coach.
And we're not even
I
talking
think that this team is a little bit that record's a little bit inflated.
And you're talking about their offense. Their offense isn't the key to their team. The key to their team is their defense.
Don't you know the saying? Yeah. Defense wins championships. Not offense. Defense. And guess what the Steelers have? Defense.
You got to score points in the game.
And I said that right at the top, that this falls on coaching and defense most of all, then followed by Roethlisberger for sure.
John, we're going to move on to baseball, but really quick, where do you rank the Steelers in your power rankings after 7 weeks? Just give me a number. We're not – no. In the entire league, if we're doing power rankings, where would you rank the Steelers?
I would have them outside of my top 5. Their defense is fantastic, but I have them outside of my top 5. I think there's better teams that can beat them. Just saying, when we get to cold weather, they'll regress.
Defense doesn't stop in cold weather. Other teams still got to score on them.
I think this defense is I think that you can score on this defense.
For me, I'm putting them at 3 or 4 because the only teams I would even consider putting ahead of them, Chiefs, Seahawks. That's it. Only teams I'd even possibly, maybe the Packers. Maybe. And I'm not sure.
You got to throw the Ravens in there, though.
You got to throw the Ravens in there. Yeah. They won the division last
I think
year.
they're better than the Ravens is what I'm saying. I'm saying
really?
They would round out my top. The Ravens would be in my top 5. I just want to say that I think Steelers for me are the 3 or 4 on my rankings, and they're very close.
Interesting.
Hey, look, we can talk more about that. We might as well tease it now because we can. We got our Sunday NFL Sunday show that we air on YouTube on Fridays, and we have on air on Real 1100 on Sundays at 12 to 12:30 before our NFL games. Gladly talk about that more then. I'm sure we'll have something to say about that. But now I know we want to move on to the World Series, and John, you got baseball. So, John, you take over. What do we got going on?
Yeah, so we got the currently we're in the middle of Game 6. The Dodgers lead 3-2 in this series. The Rays have to get this one. We got Snell on the mound tonight. So it's interesting to me that they had to go to Snell for Game 6 because then you don't have him if you win this. You got to win it, but if you win it, then you don't have him for Game 7. Whereas the Dodgers are lining up as though they potentially lose this game. If they do, they've talked about how they'll have Kershaw, they'll have Buehler, they'll have Urias. They'll have all 3 of them available for Game 7 if need be, whereas the Rays have to use their best starting pitcher in Game 6. So the Rays are really playing behind the 8 ball, going into this game. That's what I found interesting, at least leading up to this game, is that the Dodgers, they have all their ammunition waiting for Game 7 if it gets to that, and the Rays have to use theirs in Game 6.
I think we're going to see Game 7, first of all. The fact that the Dodgers have to play out of the bullpen, that's tough. That's always difficult playing out of your bullpen. And it's not a knock on the Dodgers bullpen. It's just that's difficult for any team. I mean, you look at across the league, I'm sure if you looked on a game-per-game basis, you would see bullpen games are generally a lot harder on the team going out from the bullpen. So with Tampa having Blake Snell on the mound, I'm absolutely taking Blake Snell. But with Game 7, this is Dodgers series written all over it. You have Walker Buehler, who is going to be, I believe, on regular rest for Game 7. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it'll be regular rest, which is especially dangerous because it's not like, they're pulling him up a day. No, he's on his regular rest. He'll be perfectly normal. He'll feel like he always does. And we all know Walker Buehler is one of the best, if not the best pitcher in all of baseball at the moment. He's 100% up there. We know he is Cy Young worthy. He's on that level, which is awesome. Then you're going to have Kershaw, who can come into that game. You're going to have, 2 of the best pitchers that you could possibly want to have in that position. That's fantastic for the Dodgers. And it's not that the Dodgers don't deserve to win this game or that they're bad. And it's just it's a tough game for them. I think it's going to be a close game that the Tampa Bay Rays end up winning. But like I said, with what they'll have coming for them in Game 7, it'll be Dodgers in 7, no doubt. JB, what do you think?
Well, if anyone hasn't saw, I switched over to the Brooklyn Dodgers hat, even though not in Brooklyn anymore. The Rays have to do everything because they have to win tonight. So, you got to do whatever you got to do to stay alive. It makes sense. You can't play for tomorrow. If you don't win, there is no tomorrow. The Dodgers, they don't have to stress. Put their regular guys out there. If they don't win tonight, then they got to worry. So that's why that all makes sense. Right now, so far, Snell's pitching great. Third inning. I think the Rays have a decent shot to win this game, but I like the Dodgers. I think it's over tonight. I think the Dodgers will wake up as the game moves on. Spenser?
If the Rays win tonight being Tuesday, when is Game 7?
Tomorrow.
So it'll be Wednesday. Okay. I think the Rays are going to win this game. I think the Dodgers win Game 7. I agree with Jake. The one thing I want to point out, we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week because it happened over the weekend, but that Game 4 against the Rays and Dodgers was probably the most fun I've had watching a baseball game in the last 7 to 8 years. I mean, what drama. Jansen comes in, gets 2 outs. All of a sudden, someone gets on. I think that they steal set. The beginning and the end of that inning were crazy, but then, of course, Brett Phillips steps up and has one of the most clutch at-bats I've personally ever seen. And for a Rosarena to trip, fall, still hit home safely. They put a clip out on Twitter. They were playing the end of the Titanic, that song by Celine Dion, My Heart Will Go On, as he was running to home. It was amazing. So I just want to point out, thank you to the Dodgers and the Rays for Game 4. The rest of the games in this series have been But I think the Rays will win tonight, and I think tomorrow the Dodgers will close it out.
That was a wild ending, and I want to leave it with this. I put a lot of that on the Dodgers. That was just a little bit. It was pressure mounting up. It feels like, and maybe they just tried to force the play a little bit. But I'm not complaining because it was an awesome ending. Look, I'm gonna admit that I'm rooting for the Dodgers just because I'm a Yankees fan. The last thing I want to see is the Rays to win. That would hurt. But with that said, that was awesome. I didn't care who won. That really was so fun to watch. I mean, the fact that, Spencer, you just said Rosarena falls down, still manages to get up and score. That was really cool. And that'll be a memory I will keep as a baseball fan because that's something I'm not going to see for a very long time, if ever again, because that was wild.
Before we move on to basketball real fast, I just wanted to say we had the Daniel Jones run. We had the Rosarena trip and the Todd Gurley accidental touchdown all in the same week. Sports are incredible.
And we had the DK Metcalf play as well.
That is true. We've had a good week of sports.
If only we could have had, him teach Daniel Jones how to score when he fell. But that just didn't happen. But getting into the NBA, so they're thinking about a Christmas Day start. That would be a nice thing to get basketball going. And, Christmas belongs to the NBA. I mean, honestly, real quick, what do you find more exciting, Thanksgiving football or basketball on Christmas Day? What do you guys say?
Oh God, I think I'm gonna go with the football just because I'm a bigger NFL fan than I am an NBA fan. I always have been. Plus, for my family at least, we all get together on Thanksgiving. That's always the big thing, especially there's always some good games and. I feel like the Packers play almost every year now. That's always fun to watch. You always get a good team on there, and it's a lot of fun. It's just football's a bigger sport. It's always been a bigger sport. I feel like everybody's family, it's a bigger sport. So that for me, I have that, as a fond memory with my family always. So I would say that, but they're both so fun to watch. John?
Oh, yeah, easily football. Basketball, that's not a tradition to me. I know it happens every year, but I could care less about it being on Christmas. It's Christmas. I don't really care about basketball that day, but Thanksgiving football, I mean, that's a tradition that anybody sits down and watches football on Thanksgiving. You eat all your food with your family and whoever you're with. You just chow down your food while you're watching the Lions blow another game. And you watch the Cowboys in a boring game, with the Washington football team. So sorry. And then, then it ends up being a Thursday. The other game, the final game that they added, is always really fun. Usually it's like the Ravens Steelers. I think that's what it's going to be this year. For me, it's Thursday Thanksgiving football. Absolutely look forward to that.
The easy answer for me is to say Thursday Thanksgiving football, but The overall day for Christmas for me is actually better than Thanksgiving, and here's why. As I was telling you guys offline, I happen to be of the Jewish religion, and we do Jewish Christmas every year. So what that entails is we go see a movie, we go get Chinese food, usually from Chinatown in Manhattan, and it ends with us being full of Chinese food, having seen whatever Robert Downey Jr. flick that was out in theaters that year, and we're watching the NBA game at night, like the 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever that game is. And that actually might be more satisfying than having like 4 to 5 glasses of wine and watching the Detroit Lions lose on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I just have to say the NFL with the Cowboys and the Lions, it's just enough already. I get it's tradition, but neither team has been that exciting to watch.
It needs to stay, though. It can't go away.
Yes.
That needs to stay.
Oh, of course, but it's just enough.
Pick some new teams, please.
Which is why I'm glad they brought the night game in. They kind of learned that from the NBA, how the NBA always had the best games on Christmas Day. But the only other thing going on in basketball real quick, you got Zion. Van Gundy went into New Orleans and said they want to build around him, that he doesn't have a true position. What do you think about that, Spenser, real quick?
Happy birthday, Lonzo Ball. Today, Tuesday, October 27th, is Zion's teammate Lonzo Ball's birthday. I don't know. The hire's a little weird for me. I mean, you know, to bring in Stan Van Gundy, he's an older coach. He's been around the block. Obviously, his relationship with Dwight Howard's well documented as not being that great. Is he going to be the guy to make Zion an all-star? I don't know. I'm not really sure. He could be that guy, but personally, I think Jeff's a better coach, and I'm excited to see where he lands. So interesting hire by New Orleans. Probably would have went in a different direction, but we'll see how it works out.
All right. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But that's pretty much it for the show tonight, guys. Definitely thanks for taking the time to listen to Journey with the Jays. Brent Sopel joined us earlier. You can follow me on JB_the program to get the full interview with Brent on Monday. Definitely follow us on Thursday night on Real 1100 in Atlanta, and on Sunday night, Sunday from 12 to 12:30 on the NFL show with Journey with the Jays Sunday. Jake?
You can check out myself at Jake_Malik. You can check out the show's Twitter. We have at Journey with the Three. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, like I said, Instagram, wherever you can find us, we are there. Spenser?
You can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Sa42. And you can also follow my Brooklyn Nets account. I got my Fireside Nets hat today at Fireside Nets on Twitter as well.
Yeah, you can find me obviously here, Real 1100 Fantasy and Flavors Thursday nights, 7 to 7:30. You can find that on YouTube. Just search the Carousel. You'll find the debate show. And anywhere you find your podcast, search Perch Sports or Journey with the Jays.
That's it for Journey with the Jays, I guess. So unless we have anything else, I would just say have a good night and go Falcons.